Part 1. You are going to hear a conversation between an employee at a house removal company and a customer. First, you have some time to look at questions 1 to 5. Now listen carefully and answer questions 1 to 5.
Good morning. I'm moving house next month and I was advised to come and see you, as you have a good reputation for doing removals. Are you the right person to talk to?
Yes, I am. My name's Sophie and I'd be happy to assist you. What's the exact date you're intending to move?
The 8th of October.
Yes, we have a removals team free that day. Now, I'd just like to take a few details to begin with.
Of course.
What's your name?
Mark Watson.
What's the address you're moving from?
It's 30 Alexander Crescent, Harding. The postcode's HA4 3DE.
And what address are you moving to?
42 Finchley Street, Lexington. The postcode there's LE2 9JU.
Could you spell Finchley for me?
Of course, it's FINCHLEY.
I need a contact number for you, please, Mr. Watson.
I'll give you my mobile number, as you're more likely to get me on that. It's 09976 794 327.
Thanks. Now, at what time would you like our team to arrive at Alexander Crescent to start the move?
As early as possible, please.
We can be there at 8 a.m.
That would be fine.
How would you like to pay your bill when it comes, Mr. Watson?
I'd like to make a transfer once you sent me your invoice.
Before you hear the rest of the conversation, you have some time to look at questions 6 to 10. Now listen carefully and answer questions 6 to 10.
Now, what's the size of the property at Alexander Crescent? We need to know so that we can estimate the amount of things that need to be moved.
It's a 3-bedroom property. There are double beds, wardrobes, and cupboards in all the bedrooms to be moved, along with some other smaller pieces of furniture.
Okay, got that. How about the living room?
From the living room, I have a sofa and 2 armchairs. They're all quite big. Then there's the coffee table, a sideboard, a TV and DVD machine, and various other bits and pieces.
Good. What about the kitchen?
I'll pack some boxes for you ready, but apart from that, there'll be nothing from the kitchen. I'm leaving the fridge, washing machine, dishwasher, deep freeze and cooking units for the new buyer, and I'm buying new stuff for my new property.
That will make things easier. What about the bathrooms?
Again, there will only be a big chest and some boxes that I'll have packed waiting for you.
Anything else?
In the downstairs hall, There's an old grandfather clock. Please be careful with the clock, as it's been in the family for a long time and it's fragile.
We'll be very careful. That leads me to another question. We have an insurance package for your move that we offer. It's very reasonable in price. We will, of course, be extremely careful with all your belongings, but the insurance will cover you for any kinds of breakages. This could be something small that's dropped to major damage in the event of a crash in the van during the move.
Do you have the details in a leaflet?
Yes, right here.
I'll have a look and let you know if I want it. I'll call you soon.
That's fine. There's no hurry. You can fill in the form inside the leaflet and just post or scan it to me.
That is the end of part 1. You now have half a minute to check your answers. Now turn to part 2. Part 2. You are going to hear a woman giving an information speech at a hospital. First, you have some time to look at questions 11 to 15. Now listen carefully and answer questions 11 to 15.
Hello everyone, and welcome to this information evening at our hospital. This evening is mainly aimed at patients, but it will also be useful for their friends and families. Your admission to hospital will depend on the type of procedure or care you will be receiving. You can attend as an outpatient or be admitted as a day patient or an inpatient. As an outpatient, you will go to hospital for an appointment to see a specialist, but you will not stay overnight. A day patient is admitted into the hospital, but also does not stay overnight. An inpatient is admitted into the hospital and stays overnight. If you are due to go to hospital for pre-arranged care, you will usually receive an admission letter beforehand. This will tell you the date of your admittance to hospital, which ward you are going to be in, and the consultant who will be taking care of you. The admission letter will also give you a contact number for your ward and will contain any special instructions you need to follow before your hospital procedure. For example, you may be asked not to eat or drink for a certain period of time before attending hospital. One thing to note is that it may be necessary for you to contact the hospital on the morning of your admission date to ensure that a bed is available for you. Sometimes emergencies mean hospital beds are not available when scheduled. If a bed is not available, your admission date will be rearranged. If a bed is available, you will normally be asked to arrive at the hospital in the mid or late afternoon. At our hospital, you will be asked to take part in a pre-admissions assessment. This may be an appointment with a nurse or doctor, but it is usually done by telephone to save time and money for everyone. You will be asked questions about your health, your medical history, and your home circumstances. You will also be given advice about your admission, including where to report on arrival. As I said before, it's very important to realise that you may be asked not to eat or drink before coming into hospital for your tests or operation. Finally, you will also be given advice about when to take medication if you have any prescribed. You should always bring this to the hospital with you and give it to the nurses when you arrive, even if you have stopped taking it.
Before you hear the rest of the speech, you have some time to look at questions 16 and 17. Now listen carefully and answer questions 16 and 17.
Now, I'd like to let you know about what patients should bring with them when they come here for their procedure. Think of it as being at home and stuck in bed. You'll need a dressing gown and slippers for when you get out of bed. Don't bring pajamas or anything though, as all patients in the hospital have to wear our nightgowns. These allow patients to be easily examined by doctors. Bring all your teeth care equipment, such as floss, brush, toothpaste, and mouthwash. You should also bring a face flannel if you have one, but don't worry about towels as we supply all those. If you have to stay for any period of time at the hospital, you should ask a friend or family member to bring fresh things and take away the dirty things to launder. Now, as you'll be staying quite a long time in bed, it's good to bring some things to help time pass. Books are a good idea, and these can sometimes help send you to sleep as well, which is the best thing to help you heal. Many people today bring in e-books, and as you'll have your own free power socket next to your bed, you'll be able to charge your mobile device when necessary. Computers, tablets and smartphones are all permitted, but if you're watching or listening to any media, it is obligatory to wear headphones or earphones so that you don't disturb others around you.
Before you hear the rest of the speech, you have some time to look at questions 18 to 20. Now listen carefully and answer questions 18 to 20.
When you arrive in the car park at the hospital, go into the main reception area. There are a number of corridors going off it. The first on the right is for outpatients, and people should go there if they're having a procedure but not staying overnight. The corridor next to that goes to the MRI and X-ray department and also to the eye unit. People should not go to any of these departments unless they have a referral or if they're being taken there directly from their ward. The next corridor goes to the oncology department, the orthopedics department and the renal unit. You'll see the signposting for these departments as you walk down. The next corridor is very short and only goes to the pharmacy. Drugs and medicines can be bought here and, as it's in a hospital, it has a much wider range of prescription and non-prescription drugs. Of course, if you're on a ward, the nursing staff will organise all your medication and you won't need to come here until maybe when you leave. We're running a little short of time now, so I'll stop, as I want you to be able to ask some questions. I'll hand out some leaflets at the end, and there's a map included, so don't worry if I haven't mentioned where you're going. If you experience any problems finding where to go when you get to the hospital, just go to the information point in the middle of the reception area and ask. So let's move on to the questions.
That is the end of part 2. You now have half a minute to check your answers. Now turn to part 3. Part 3. You are going to hear a conversation at a university meeting between 4 members. They are discussing about a future use of an empty room. First, You have some time to look at questions 21 to 26. Now listen carefully, and answer questions 21 to 26.
Good afternoon, everyone. As you know, I'm Dr. Cameron. Today, we four are here to discuss what to do with the new space made on the ground floor by the decommissioning of the lower science laboratory. Let me introduce you to each other. First, on my right, we have Mrs. Jones, who is the site manager.
Good afternoon.
On my left, we first have Mrs. Strauss, who is the head of the science department.
Good afternoon.
Finally, we have Mike Evans, who is the representative from the Student Council.
Hello, everyone.
So let's start with Mrs. Jones.
Well, my plan is that we use this space to open a new cafe for the students and staff. The room has large double doors that open out to a grass area and some concrete. In the warmer months, we could have some tables and chairs and some large parasols. Because the science lab has lots of gas appliances there, it shouldn't cost too much to convert part of the room to a small kitchen for food preparation.
That seems to be quite a practical plan. There are certainly lots of people on the site who need food and drink throughout the day.
What do you think about this proposal, Mike?
I had another idea. Whilst I agree that there are a lot of people on site that need to be served food, I believe quite a few people, especially students, bring packed lunches onto the campus. This, of course, is much cheaper and attractive for students. The problem is that, at present, there's no location where people can eat their packed lunches. It's not so bad in summer when most people just sit on the grass. But in the colder months or wet days, there's nowhere to go. Therefore, I'd like to use the room to be a lounge where people can eat.
That's an interesting proposal. How much would it cost to change the room, do you think?
I don't know exactly, but it shouldn't be too much. We'd have to organise the decommissioning of all the chemistry-related pipes going into the room to make them safe, but that would be the only large expense. We wouldn't need to make a kitchen or anything. We'd just need plenty of tables and chairs. Having some outside in summer is a great idea, as Mrs. Jones suggested.
It's a nice idea, Mike, but there is one main problem. Students are notoriously messy, and if there's a room where they can come and eat their own food, the place will soon become very messy indeed. And this will happen every day. The room will have to be cleaned quite thoroughly every day, and with the undoubted mess, it'll probably need tidying up throughout the day as well. Who's going to do all this?
I thought the regular cleaners could do it.
It's not as easy as that, Mike. The regular cleaners only come in during the evenings, and they have a pretty tight schedule. I doubt there'd be time for them to clean a really messy room properly.
And we only have some caretakers on duty during the day, and they are far too busy to clean up after students. I don't think they'd appreciate the idea either.
Could we take on somebody to do it?
Who's going to pay for that, though, Mike? We have some budget allocated to change the room, but we certainly don't have any ongoing money devoted to paying a new member of the cleaning staff.
This is where my plan works better. A cafe would be financially self-sufficient. The cafe would have to take on extra staff, but it could pay them out of the revenue that it makes.
Before you hear the rest of the discussion, you have some time to look at questions 27 to 30. Now listen carefully and answer questions 27 to 30.
Are there any other suggestions for the room?
I did have one suggestion. As it's been a science room for such a long time, I was hoping that we might be able to retain its use for the science department. As you can imagine, the science department uses many dangerous chemicals, and at present we store these things in the individual labs. This is not very efficient and also has some security issues.
What security is used at the moment in the labs?
Right now, the labs only have deadlocks as a safeguard, and this isn't really enough security for storing some of the things we have.
Yes, I can see why you're worried about this. It's an important concern.
Yes, it is. It would cost quite a lot to upgrade the security on all the labs, but if we could make the room in question our storeroom, we would only have to install the extra security in one room.
Would it be harder to make it secure, as the room's on the ground floor?
In theory, yes, but not in reality. You see, the ground floor rooms already have shutters that can be put down with controls in the room. The room can just have these down the whole time. That, in conjunction with the extra locks we could install on the windows, would be more than enough.
Well, that seems to be a sensible suggestion as well. I'm very happy to see that you've all thought so hard about this and come up with 3 options that are all very worthy and mostly feasible. The problem is that I see that you're all very keen on your own ideas being adopted. So that gives you all 1 vote without counting me. That means I get the deciding vote. With such great ideas, I don't want to make a decision too quickly. So I think the best thing is that I think about it until next Monday. To help me, would you please email me your proposals? It doesn't have to be in great detail. And if you could get that to me by Thursday afternoon, then I can sit down with the Dean of the college and we can talk through the suggestions together on Friday morning. I will email you with the decision on Monday morning.
That is the end of part 3. You now have half a minute to check your answers. Now turn to part 4. Part 4. You are going to hear a part of a biology lecture about a stick insect found at the Lord Howe Island. First, you have some time to look at questions 31 to 37. Now listen carefully and answer questions 31 to 37.
Hello everyone. Today in this zoology lecture we'll be looking at an extraordinary and rare creature, the Lord Howe Island stick insect. Lord Howe Island is a small volcanic landmass in the Tasman Sea, between Australia and New Zealand. It's only 10 kilometres in length and very narrow, only 300 metres wide at one point. There are also 28 other much smaller outcrops around the island, and together they form the Lord Howe Island Group. Also known as a phasmid or land lobster, the Lord Howe Island stick insect is a large, heavy-bodied and flightless stick insect. Females have a body length of up to 12 centimetres and males up to 10.6 centimetres. The insect used to be extremely common on Lord Howe Island, with one finding being of 28 individuals in just one hollow. The Lord Howe Island stick insect was thought to only be found on Lord Howe Island, but a very small colony has also been found on Ball's Pyramid, one of the rocky outcrops near Lord Howe Island. This species has always been extremely vulnerable. The population was very small and restricted to a tiny patch of apparently suboptimal habitat, and therefore the species has had a high risk of extinction through random, unpredictable events. The habitat was extremely delicate and unstable, and any disturbance could have been catastrophic for the species. This catastrophe then occurred due to human actions. Before 1860, Lord Howe Island was not occupied by any mice and rats. Mice were introduced to the island through no one knows how. The mice ate native insects and plants and competed for food, especially with birds. Nevertheless, the impact of the mice on Lord Howe's native plants and animals has not been completely clear. On 15th of June 1918, however, the SS Macambo, a ship carrying fruits and vegetables, ran aground. It was fixed within 10 days and sailed away, but before it did so, black rats escaped the ship and created their new home on Lord Howe Island. This caused the end for several unique animals. Over the coming years, the rats are thought to have caused the extinction of 5 species of bird and 13 invertebrates that weren't found anywhere else in the world. Even today, the rats threaten 5 more bird species and 2 reptile species. The Lord Howe Island stick insect was one of these species to become extinct, and everyone was resigned to the fact that they were gone. However, in 2001, researchers theorized that the insect might be found on one of the satellite islands. They visited the islands and, to their delight, found a small population at Ball's Pyramid. Although they found nothing at first, as the insect was known to be nocturnal, they returned at night and found a colony of 24. In 2003, a pair of adult Lord Howe Island stick insects were taken to Melbourne Zoo in an attempt to breed them in captivity. The female began laying eggs in February 2003, and the first hatchlings emerged in September 2003. Several new generations have since been produced, and the population has steadily grown since. Other zoos around the world have also taken on the species in order to extend bloodlines in case Melbourne Zoo suffered a catastrophe. The aim of the breeding program is to secure the immediate survival of the species and to produce the animals needed for its subsequent reintroduction back onto Lord Howe Island.
Before you hear the rest of the lecture, you have some time to look at questions 38 to 40. Now listen carefully and answer questions 38 to 40.
The problem is that the reintroduction to Lord Howe Island could mean that the rats would just eat them again. A plan has therefore been created to drop rat poison around the island in an attempt to eradicate the rats. However, the program is not completely welcome on the island, as many residents have stated that they do not believe the rats were responsible for the demise of the insects, and that the rat poison will kill many of the island's other remaining animals. A recent referendum with the island's population found that 48% of residents oppose the plan. Residents also say that the stick insects will infest houses and that the poison could enter the human food chain, causing birth defects and sickness. At present, because there is a 52% proportion in favour of the anti-rat program, the plan will go ahead and trials are taking place. One key aspect of the trials is to deal with another objection, which is that the island's mice which need a higher poison dose than the rats to be killed, will benefit too much due to the eradication of the rats. Until the results of the trial are known, the Lord Howe Island rats and the unique problem they have created will continue to threaten the ecology of the island.
That is the end of part 4. You now have half a minute to check your answers. If you enjoyed solving this test, please give it a big thumbs up and subscribe to us,